I would not want to miss a second topic that's very important, which is your social entrepreneurship, to which you devote a lot of time as well. It's the Hidden Angel Foundation. Let's talk about that. What is that?
Well, the Hidden Angel Foundation is, as you say, my effort at social entrepreneurism. My wife and I had a son who had a congenital problem that prevented him from being able to interact with the world around him. We discovered that when he was exposed to situations that would stimulate his senses, that his world lit up, that his life became enriched. And so when he passed away, we decided to start a foundation devoted to something called multisensory environments. And in his name, we would make these available to children throughout North America.
And can we put a name on what illness was it?
His condition was called Sanfilippo syndrome.
I see. But multisensory MSEs can help, I'm told, Alzheimer's patients, elderly patients, all kinds of autistic children. How does it work?
If you think about, imagine this. You typically would touch 300 surfaces every 30 minutes. We all would. Inside, underneath our skin, we have miles of nerve endings. We have pressure sensors. We have cold sensors. We have all sorts of different apparatus that releases neurotransmitters, releases hormones. This is how we know we're alive. This is what lights up our day. Now imagine the world for a child or a senior citizen who are unable to interact with the world around them. Imagine how that must feel. So they tend to develop conditions where they fail to thrive, where they withdraw, because their life is not enriched. So the concept of multisensory environments is very simple. We develop facilities, generally inside of hospitals or schools or therapeutic clinics, where these children or senior citizens, in the case of Alzheimer's patients, are able to go in, and by accessing this equipment, they not only can interact with their environment, but they can actually influence their environment, which gives them a completely different perspective on the world around them.
And although I don't know exactly how it works, I was struck by some of the descriptions. Gave me the impression it was a good idea that nobody had stumbled upon before. Some of these things are quite simple, like a mirror ball.
Exactly.
They're not nuclear science here. But how was this? How did they happen upon these solutions?
Well, in fact, the techniques were originated in Europe in the 1970s. For some reason, they never really made it to North America. When we were dealing with our son, we started with a more fundamental approach to sensory stimulation. We would take him in the fresh air. We would spend a lot of time exposing him to music. We would take him to a mall, which is the ultimate multisensory experience. Yeah. In the course of doing that and reading about sensory stimulation, we discovered what in Europe are called snoozelen facilities. And snoozelen is the word that they use in Europe for these facilities. There, for decades, they've been using this equipment to deal with children with autism, all sorts of neurological conditions, physical impairments, and they've discovered that the children learn better, are more relaxed. I mean, the reality is, as we all know, when you're happy, you're healthy, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
And I don't know if I read correctly, your son was expected to not go beyond the age of 12, and he actually doubled that.
That's correct.
And you would attribute that to these efforts?
We could see every day in his eyes that this equipment motivated him, and we believe it enriched his life and ultimately extended his life, correct.
And the grandmother, who never knew him, plays a role here. Again, I hope I read correctly. It's in memory of why?
Well, the grandmother is my wife's mother, and she passed away when my wife was very young. By all accounts, she had many of the same gifts that Christopher had. She was a very courageous person. She was a very loving person. And so we thought that there was a certain thread that was continuing from her to Christopher. Christopher was, as we would describe him, the ultimate hidden angel in that he was able to make a lot of things happen despite his infirmities.
And so is she then a hidden angel?
She was also a hidden angel.
And do you spend, I know that you spend resources, money to endow hospitals with a particular facility like that, but in Birmingham or whenever you are in the city that has one, do you visit, do you spend time with the kids? Oh,
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the highlight of my week is when we open the mail from the different facilities, and we hear these anecdotes about children who were unable to show emotion before and now are smiling and giggling. We read about children who are having difficulty learning, and now because they're so relaxed, they're in a non-threatening environment, they're able to learn. The anecdotes go on and on and on about the impact that these rooms have on people at the most fundamental level, simply enriching their life. But as I said, in some cases, encouraging children with autism to say their first words, encouraging other children to interact with the world around them when they won't previously.
And I would imagine in some cases, if the problem is not biological, not physiological, but psychological, you might actually turn their life around completely, the way you turn around a company. You know, if there's nothing wrong, quote unquote, with the brain, and it's some kind of autism that developed some other way, you could turn that around.
Well, I don't know if I'd want to say we could work miracles, but the reality is that we're learning more every day about the brain's ability to adjust and to adapt. We now talk about brain plasticity. We hear about people with strokes recovering. We hear about children with neurological problems developing